Welcome to Carmania, I'm Chris with the Seat Ateca 190 horsepower 2-litre 4-cylinder petrol version. In this test we will find out if this car is worth 46,000 euros and a lot more.
The Ateca is the alternative to all the small SUVs that you can see, Tiguan, Kodiaq or T-Roc, and it doesn't have to hide itself behind any of these. Quite unique is that the Seat comes standard with full LED headlights. The graphics of the lights and the indicator look really good and are real eye-catchers, especially in combination with a color like this, velvet red. Be brave and take it in this color. The front of the FR model is sportier, means big air intake and more aggressive design. If you want to make it perfect, choose the 19-inch wheels instead of the 18 inches, which are big and look big. Camera in the side mirror, more about the surround view option later. The matte steel accents you can find everywhere are cool. Altogether, it looks like a Leon with more ground clearance. Behind the boot lid you can find 485 litres of boot space and 510 if it's a normal front-wheel driven Ateca, but the 190 horsepower diesel and petrol versions are always all-wheel drive. First of all, it's a modern cockpit, but it doesn't look that modern anymore. Main reason for this is the analog cockpit. While the Leon already has a digital dashboard, this doesn't. And there is lots of unused space at the dash. This gives lots of space for plastic landscape, though luckily it's not hard plastic. The air condition unit is nicely kept and surrounded with piano-painted trims. Everything is clearly structured. Same for the gearbox. The only thing what's again not a modern standard is the nav, which is included in the central dash. But it's a good and big enough screen with good resolution that offers, typically for Seat, a bunch of functions, making it a fully valuable info and entertainment system. But no touch buttons at the nav, still physical ones. The steering wheel is really good to hold, sporty and offers many options. Only thing being difficult to use is the ACC shifter, which I will come to later when driving on a highway. The seats match the sporty genes of the Ateca FR and are not just nice looking with Alcantara, they seem to offer lots of lateral support. How much, you will see in the test. Quite fantastic to use on longer trips is the middle armrest storage space, which is cooled so that even after hours of driving your drinks or snacks are still kept fresh. Legroom on the back seats is totally okay, even if sitting behind me as a 6'2" person. Headroom is also anywhere given.
This video is going to have 3 different chapters, so city, country road and highway, but let's start with the surprising advantages in the city traffic. Number 1 is the weight, 1,536 kilograms. This also comes to its benefit later when driving on a country road and on a highway because it increases the driving performance and also gives you better fuel consumption average. 1,536 kilograms is really a lightweight. Because of BMW 1 Series, for example, with an X-Drive, so with an all-wheel drive, comparably to that has more weight, so about 1,580 kilograms, and this car is bigger. Now, of course, the driving performance on the paper isn't that impressive, I have to be honest. 7.9 seconds for accelerating from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour. But in the city, these 190 horsepower gives you more than you might think, you might suggest from the paper, from the performance data on the paper. It doesn't feel like 7.9 seconds, it feels a lot faster, like less than 7 seconds. So green light battles are quite funny with the Seat Ateca, and some of them you're going to be losing, some of them you will win, so it's not a slow car at all. With the 7-speed automatic dual clutch transmission especially not. We've got another Seat Ateca coming here from the opposite side. So people saying bad things about these Volkswagen automatic transmissions, I can't confirm this, especially when driving it a smooth way just like me now. You can't even feel the shifts, and that's an advantage for giving you the smoothest possible driving. How it's going to be in the sport mode when shifting a bit harder, or using the shift pedals behind the steering wheel when driving the car a bit harder in curvy roads. This we're going to see when driving it on the country road, but for the city traffic it's really perfect. The next really surprising thing is the steering. Two aspects about it. Number one, this is one of the most direct steerings that I have ever experienced, ever tested in the past 2 years. Of course, you have different expectations with a, let me say, BMW M240i, but still, though it topped my expectations, the Seat, it's really more direct than any other sports hot hatch. So it immediately goes where you want it to go. So even if you move the steering wheel just a little bit, it immediately goes where you need it, where you want it to go, and that's really a good driving behavior, especially I guess it's going to be on the country road. And aspect number two is this turning circle. So I mean, this isn't something what might be so important in the daily driving, but as soon as you need to turn around in a tighter street or need to maneuver on tighter parking spaces of supermarkets or wherever, you're going to be really grateful of having a turning circle like the Seat Ateca has it. That's really nice to have, really a big advantage for city maneuvers. Now, what about the fuel consumption average? Also important, because you might be in the decision procedure of taking the diesel or the petrol version, as the diesel is really attractive. Okay, if you're not touched by the diesel issue, but this also offers 190 horsepower from a 2-litre 4-cylinder and even more torque, while the petrol version has 320 newton meters, the diesel has 400 newton meters, which makes it possible to accelerate with the diesel a half of a second faster than with the petrol version. But still, the fuel consumption average is lower than I expected it to be. So I measured 7.6 litres in the city traffic with soft traffic, and about 9 up to 9.5 litres when the traffic gets a bit harder, or when accelerating several times at these classical green light battles maybe. And staying at less than 10 litres in the city traffic is really good for a car with 190 horsepower. And as you can see, the acceleration is quite spontaneous. You've got a little bit of a power leak, but that's the turbo. Every turbo car has this. And I was driving in the comfort, so in the normal mode, not in the eco mode, for measuring the fuel consumption average. So we could have faced even a little bit less. Independently from if we call it a mini SUV or a Seat Leon with more ground clearance, the size of the car isn't crossing your plans of finding parking spaces in cities, or not more than with a Volkswagen Golf maybe. Additionally, on top, we do have in this car, what I recommend you to take, the surround view camera system. And there I'm a bit surprised that not every camera has the same quality. The resolution is okay, but for example, the front camera has a fisheye effect. So it could be difficult to face out exactly how close you got to the car in front of you, while the back view camera is a lot better in my eyes. The only thing what they should have changed is the side view camera, because the side view camera vertically looks down on the rim, on the wheel, and doesn't give you a wide angle. So when driving into a parking space, you can't see the curbside coming. You can only see the rim from the bird view vertically, and this is bothering a bit. But of course, it's better to have it than not to have it, because like this you might be able to avoid scratches on the rims. From the suspension I can tell you, or about the suspension I can tell you, that if you are a fan of softer driving with a ground clearance like the Seat Ateca has it, you should order maybe another edition, because yes, it's stiff. I love it because I'm a sporty driver, but this car, from its driving behavior, so with the steering and the suspension feels like a Seat Leon Cupra 300. Actually, this car is a really good companion for the city traffic in every aspect, so from maneuvering it, driving it, and also parking it. Well, I have to say, while I praised things like the steering and gear shifting and power performance in a city, I have to praise this twice. Driving on a country road where these things come even more to their benefit, just like this amazingly direct steering. It's as sharp as a surgeon's knife. You don't need this in a car like that, but still you have it. And once your family's not on board, you are so happy to have it, being able to throw this car over the country roads. You don't expect it to be that agile, so this is sports car feeling. And I can say again that actually this car is a Seat Leon Cupra 300 with a bit more ground clearance, yes, and a bit less power. So I just can't imagine how tremendous the Ateca Cupra has to be. And the gear shifting, yeah, it needs a bit time to shift back to recognize that you'd like to accelerate, but the gear shiftings are really smooth. And if you'd like to reach the perfect revs for accelerating out of the curve and not waiting for the automatic transmission, you can use the gear shifters behind the steering wheel. And as you can see, they are really shifting smoothly, and there's no additional time to wait for until it reacts, and it goes really fluently, so you don't even recognize it. But this chassis is the most fascinating about this car, that it's so stable. The dampers are really, really stiff and give you that kind of sporty feeling that you normally would like to have in a Cupra. And the 190 horsepower, to say this in addition, is so much more than the data paper promises. Just take a look at that here. So that makes really fun. And with the all-wheel drive, it's so stable, just like driving on a railway, so that you can feel really safe even in the sports mode. The car is totally reliable, and with the steering, exactly drives you where you want to drive by handling the steering wheel. So this is a fantastic job that Seat did. So I don't know if they did that by chance or just on purpose for doing that sporty, but I'm totally impressed. And it's punchy. Hey, so you don't really need more. The brakes, really good dosing, not exhausted after having slowed down several times a bit harder, so they don't get spongy after a time. And everything is just like it has to be in a sports car, what actually this car isn't. Really good job. And the last thing to say about my country road experience, which really impresses me with this car, is the lateral support of these seats. These seats are, again, just like the performance of the car, more than you expect and more than you need. But once you're driving that fast on these country roads, of course it's really a huge benefit of having a lateral support like that.
Now, let's come to the last chapter, the highway. After the country road experience, I didn't expect this car to even top my already positive impression, but it did. I travelled from Munich to the Lake Garda in Italy for an extended weekend, and it was so nice. Though much lateral support of the seats, they were really comfortable to sit on. The engine is smooth, and if not throttling it, you're not being bothered by some sound-composing engine sound stuff. For navigation, I used the Android Auto connection, and it was perfect like this. Behind me, my wife and my little daughter, who slept really well, and even if not, the huge sunroof lets you watch the clouds or mountains around. The boot space is totally enough for 2.5 people. But the best is still to come: the active cruise control. I know many of them from many car manufacturers, for example the Pro Pilot of my Nissan Leaf, which is supposed to be one of the best, but it's not. It's the Seat's. It works so well. I mean, look how intelligent it is. If you set it to maybe 135 kilometers per hour and the car in front of you is driving slower, of course also you do so. But if you change the lane and drive on the right lane where no one is driving in front of you, still the active cruise control doesn't allow you to drive faster than the car on the left lane, as it's not allowed to overtake from the right. And through the sensors, the car knows that. Even in longer curves, it doesn't lose the lane, and the best, it's not asking every 5 seconds to put your hands back on the steering wheel again, it's more about 15 or 20 seconds. If you're driving attentively, this makes traveling really comfortable and finds the sense behind an active cruise control, even if many say that it's not the sense of it putting your hands off the steering wheel, but then I'll have to ask, what else? If you're changing a lane, the active cruise control immediately after about 2 seconds finds the new lane again. In my Leaf, for example, this can easily take up to 8 seconds. 80% I was driving with the active cruise control in combination with the supported steering. Especially at highway traffic, this is perfect. Now the only downside, the shifter for the active cruise control. It's so difficult to understand how it works that you're permanently pushing wrong. You may need weeks until it gets an automatism. It's just not logical. But that's basically already all what's negative about this car. The fuel consumption, as you can see, can't be criticized. A bit above 7 liters is really cool. If there wasn't the small tank of only maximum 55 liters for an SUV, come on guys! Altogether, as a conclusion, I almost never had a car leaving a that much positive altogether impression on me. And it's also really good looking. I don't know why the Italians looked because of its color and its sporty exterior, or because I drove through the pedestrian zone to reach the hotel, but my question from the beginning, if this car is worth €46,000, got answered. Oh, yes. Even if it's still lots of money for a car not coming from the premium segment, you have to see the other side. Where else do you get that much for this money? The only that I'd think about would be if already spending €46,000, why not putting €5,000 on top and having the Ateca Cupra with 300 horsepower. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hitting the notification bell for not missing any videos. And leave me a thumbs up if you like the video. And tell me in the comment box what you think. Is this car too expensive?